Are tech jobs even worth it for you? Like, what's the tea? Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. My name is Tabitha. Welcome to Tabby Talk. I have a lot to talk about. Today, we're going to be discussing how I transitioned from biomed to tech. Just a quick disclaimer before we kick this video off. I just want to mention I am not a career coach, a life coach, or a finance coach or analyst. I'm just a student of life who loves to learn and share knowledge learned with others. Most of the topics that I discuss on here are things that I myself have experienced or navigated, and I'm just putting it out there in the way that I've experienced it, and of course with research to back it up. For a quick background before we get into things, I graduated with a BS in biomedical sciences, and I hold experience in scientific research. While working in healthcare and the sciences, I realized that that was not what I wanted to do long term. And looking into where I wanted to shift my career into was how I landed into my tech transition. Please do not transition into tech because everybody is doing it and it's all so popular. You have to ask yourself, do you actually want to do it? Are tech jobs even worth it for you? Tech jobs are also very diverse. Before you start with a transition, you really do have to look into it very in depth because there are a lot of roles out there. So you want to find something that you actually enjoy doing and you can transfer your skills to. I will never advise anyone to take on a job that would make them miserable just because it's a high paying job, because your happiness is priceless. Now, if I was to transition into tech in 2024, this is how I will do it. In my transition, the first step I took was figuring out my why. Why am I transitioning into tech in the first place? Figuring out my why also helped me to draw out what skills I actually liked in the role I was currently in. Doing this helps you realize what you're good at, what you like, and what you want to keep doing. After figuring out my why, we dived into the next step, which was research. Research. You have to do your research so that you know exactly what you're getting into. There are so many tech roles out there, so you definitely want to do your research to find out exactly what you're interested in. This is very important. Finding a role that you're actually interested in makes it easier for you to do this transition because it's a process. While you're doing this transition, it's going to be a long process. So you want to make sure that in every step of the way, you're actually interested in what you're doing because it makes it easier for you to push yourself when needed. And you're going to need it. Doing your research into what exact role you want to transition into helps you in figuring out what you need, what skills you need to build. Reflect on your non-technical background and identify transferable skills. There is probably something that you're already doing that can be transferred into the tech job that you're looking to get into. Once you've done your research and you now know what 1 or 2 or 3 roles you want to start looking into, I can't tell you what you can or cannot do, but it might be a little harder for you to want to transition into 5 different tech roles. So maybe start with 1 or 2 that are actually of strong interest to you so that you have a focus. Once you know what exact role you want to focus on, this is where the next step comes in, and that is embracing learning. There is going to be a lot of learning to be done. You might have to learn programming languages, web development frameworks, or data analytics techniques. Or for me, I had to learn a couple of things. I had to learn SQL, I had to learn R, took a data analysis course online that highlighted all of the skills as something that I might come across in my data analysis job. My learning actually took me a year and a couple of months. I was working a full-time job while doing this transition. It wasn't anything I could just skip through and just show a badge of learning and apply for jobs. No, you actually have to learn these things. Now, your learning does not only comprise of taking a course online. Watch YouTube videos, watch other people's experiences on it. I cannot tell you how many day in the live videos or how I transition into data analysis videos or what courses to take. I watched so many videos. Shout out to those people who make videos on these topics because that helped me a ton. Now, leading into my next point, which is networking with others. You have to simultaneously do this while you're also learning, because you might find out that there is more for you to learn. So while I was taking my data analytics course online, I was finding people with similar experiences on LinkedIn as well. One of the connections that helped me the most I found on LinkedIn was a lady who had transitioned from being a preschool teacher into a data analyst. She highlighted this very obviously on LinkedIn, showing her transition progress. And I connected with her and just asked her how she did it and just asked for some tips on how to put myself out there. And shout out to that lady. I even connected with a data analyst on Twitter. He was very vocal about his transition journey and he had a couple groups that he suggested. So I connected directly with him, asked him about his process, and he gave me a couple insights, and that was really helpful. You can also seek mentorship from someone who you admire. You can reach out to people and ask them to be your mentor in this process. I didn't take this step, but it is a good step to take because you build a stronger bond. Next step in this transition process is building a portfolio. You want a portfolio that highlights the skills that you are learning to show that, hey, I might not be working this tech job right now, but here is this portfolio to show that I am acquiring the skills and I am implementing them in other ways. Now, building a portfolio is not a mandatory step. It is just advised to do it. I didn't build a portfolio during my transition, but if I was to do it again, I would absolutely build a portfolio because in this competitive job market, you want something that's going to make you stand out above everybody else. And a portfolio is absolutely going to do that. Another step in this transition process is time and patience. You have to dedicate the time and you need the patience. A transition does not happen overnight. You cannot skip through a course and show a badge and be qualified for the job. The first job that I applied to when I started feeling confident in this process, I was given a SQL assignment. And I was still at the baby stages of SQL. When I got this assignment, I spent 3 days losing sleep trying to understand how to excel in my newfound skills of SQL. Needless to say, I didn't get the job. I spent a lot of time on this. And I learned a lot in the process, though. I learned that I could actually apply the SQL skills that I have been learning, and I knew that I wasn't ready. So I went back to the drawing board. Having the time to dedicate to this process and the patience to keep you grounded is very important. This is not going to happen overnight, so you have to be patient with yourself. You know you're taking the steps to learn, so just exercise patience on yourself. My transition took me a year and a half before I actually got a job. It could take you shorter, it could take you longer. However you do it, just know that you are going to land where you need to be if you take the proper steps. If you find videos online that tell you how to transition into tech in 2 weeks, they're lying. It's just clickbait. Unless you're already in tech and you're trying to change what you're doing a little bit, maybe it's going to take you a couple of weeks. But for someone who is coming from a non-technical background and wants to transition entirely into tech, it's going to take some time. So dedicate that time to it. And of course, I understand we are all busy. You have your 9 to 5 that you have to go to. You want to be able to socialize and do things after work. Just dedicate maybe 2-3 hours a day, wherever you can fit it, into learning the things that you need to. If you're going to be listening to a course, you can listen to it on your drive to work, on your drive back from work, however it implements into your schedule. Just find a way to do it. Now, when you start feeling confident in the process, you can start applying to jobs. This step is last because most people want to rush the transition, apply for the jobs, and get the job. Well, breaking news. The job application part is not easy either. If you have been in the job market lately, you can probably tell for yourself. You need patience. You want to at least feel qualified to learn the skills in the job description. Some tech jobs you apply to will actually make you take a skills test. So if you tell them you're qualified to do a certain job, they want to see you prove it. Now, when you're applying for jobs, do not forget to circle back and reach out to those networks that you have built. Remember, your network is your net worth. So if you have a mentor that you have gained in this process or a network that you are connected with, reach out back to them, tell them, hey, I finally learned what I needed to in this transition. Do you have any roles that you know of that are open at your organization? Most people are willing to help. Not everyone, but somebody is going to help. I had reached out to the networks that I have built during my transition, and some of them referred me, although those jobs didn't land, but I was grateful that they were willing to help in some way. Having someone refer you to a job is the cheat code, especially in today's job market. Most jobs are willing to hire either internally or through a referral, then reaching out to an application pool. Now, if you're already at a tech company holding a non technical role but transitioning into a tech role, that is probably the best place to be because you can apply to jobs within your company. Most jobs are willing to hire internally, so if you're already at that organization, just apply to a tech role if you've learned the skills. They will be more willing to look at your experience. I know a lot of people hate writing cover letters, but I would advise writing cover letters in your job application process because cover letters are an extra way to explain, hey, my resume might not be tech related right now, but I am learning and applying and willing to learn when you hire me. If you have a portfolio, you probably don't need a cover letter as well because your portfolio is already showing that you're applying those technical skills that you're learning. But if you don't have a portfolio, I would strongly recommend a cover letter. Applying to a tech job with a resume that does not signify that you're working in tech or learning a tech skill probably would not make you stand out. So you definitely want to do things that make you stand out. Again, have you seen the job market? Now, if you've taken all of these steps and you've applied, you're applying, and it's not happening fast enough for you, do not lose patience. It's going to happen. You just need to give it time. And if one process is not working for you, change it. You also want to keep reaching out to your networks. You want to keep joining career groups, definitely reaching out directly to recruiters, and even visiting conferences. I'm not saying go to those conferences that require you to pay $1,000 into admission, but join conferences that will not break your bank and will give you the opportunity to meet people in person. Now, lastly, in every point that I have mentioned, the most important point is do not fear the pivot. While this is going to be a completely different process for you, it's going to require you stepping out of your comfort zone. Just know that at the next step of you stepping out of your comfort zone is something greater for you if it is something that you want. Do what you need to do your research, stick with the process. If you have watched this up until this point and you have any tips for others who are transitioning, if you have transitioned yourself, please feel free to drop them in the comments. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to reach out to me in the comments. Email me if needed. My email is attached to my YouTube. I will put it in the link, but I will probably be more responsive through Instagram DMs on my page, Tabby Talk on IG. I hope this video helps somebody out there who is looking to transition or is confused on where to go. There are also a lot of videos out there that are really helpful. So again, do your research. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. I will see you at the next one.